There is a particular cruelty in watching someone who always looked indestructible suddenly become human. For more than 3 decades, Jeremy Clarkson had been the man who seemed impossible to slow down. Loud voice, sharp opinions, fast cars, bigger mistakes, bigger comebacks. The kind of man who could walk through controversy, criticism, and chaos and somehow emerge on the other side looking almost untouched. And then something happened. Not on a racetrack, not during one of his famous arguments, not because of television, something quieter, something nobody could hear, and somewhere in the middle of a normal day, a reality began unfolding that would eventually force millions of people to look at Jeremy Clarkson in a way they never had before. Because at 66 years old, the man who had spent years acting larger than life suddenly found himself confronting something life-sized. And what made it difficult was not simply what happened, it was how it happened. Because the warning signs had been there long before anyone realized they mattered. And that is where this story really begins. The cameras had been rolling for years. Fields stretched across the Oxfordshire countryside beneath grey skies. Tractors moved slowly through mud. Animals wandered through fences they were never supposed to cross. Plans failed. Weather ruined things. Jeremy shouted. Caleb Cooper rolled his eyes. People originally expected Clarkson's farm to be funny, and it was. But somewhere along the way, something unexpected happened. The audience changed. Or perhaps Jeremy changed. The man millions of people knew from fast cars and sarcastic comments suddenly looked different standing in a muddy field arguing over crops. He looked smaller, not physically, humanly, because farming has a strange way of removing performance. The land does not care who you are. It does not care how famous you are. The rain falls anyway, the crops fail anyway, the seasons move anyway, and perhaps for the first time in decades, Jeremy Clarkson found himself doing something where personality alone could not save him. People loved watching that, not because he was succeeding, because he was failing, and failing honestly. The cameras kept rolling. Season after season, audiences watched him struggle through planning battles, livestock disasters, machinery problems, and endless frustration. But there was another battle slowly approaching, and almost nobody noticed it. Because when something dangerous enters your life quietly, it rarely announces itself. Months earlier, Jeremy had continued living normally. Meetings, filming schedules, farm work, conversations, the ordinary movement of ordinary days. Nothing dramatic, nothing cinematic, nothing that looked like the beginning of a crisis. And maybe that is what makes moments like this frightening, because life-changing events rarely arrive with warning music playing in the background. Usually they arrive disguised as normal days where people wake up believing tomorrow will probably look exactly like today, until it doesn't. The strange thing about age is that people spend years pretending it is not happening, especially men like Jeremy Clarkson, because somewhere deep down, many people quietly believe the rules apply differently to them. Illness happens to somebody else, hospitals belong to somebody else, bad news belongs to somebody else, until suddenly it doesn't. Suddenly the conversation changes. Suddenly doctors begin using words that feel heavy. Words people wish they had never heard. And once you hear those words, life separates itself into 2 versions, life before and life after. The audience had no idea what they were looking at yet. Photographs appeared, hospital images. Jeremy Clarkson wearing clothes viewers were not used to seeing him wear. No fast cars, no fields, no humor, just a hospital bed. Something about it looked wrong, like seeing a mountain with a crack running through it. You know mountains can break, you understand it logically, but some part of you still doesn't expect to actually see it happen. People looked at those pictures and felt something uncomfortable. Questions, small questions at first, nothing serious, but questions grow. And sometimes they become impossible to ignore. Because people notice when somebody who has always looked strong suddenly looks tired. People notice when energy changes. People notice silence. Months later, that silence would matter. Because Jeremy Clarkson had spent years warning other people about something. Years. He had spoken openly about health, about risks, about getting checked, about paying attention. He knew family history mattered. He knew age mattered. He knew the statistics. He understood the danger. Which creates a painful irony, because there is something deeply unfair about being struck by the exact thing you spent years warning others about, almost like standing outside in the rain holding an umbrella for everybody else and discovering you forgot one for yourself. Life sometimes writes stories with a sense of irony that feels almost cruel. And then came the moment. Not dramatic, not loud, not cinematic, just a conversation. People standing together discussing ordinary things. Harvests, schedules, timelines, work. The normal details that fill ordinary days. And then Jeremy said something. Simple words, flat delivery, no performance, no dramatic pause, just truth. And suddenly the room felt smaller. Because some sentences change everything, not because they are long, because they are short, because the human brain immediately understands what they mean. No translation needed, no explanation required. The camera stayed on people. Faces changed, eyes changed, expressions changed. Shock has a strange look. It freezes people. For a few seconds, they seem to forget what movement is supposed to look like because nobody ever expects terrible news to arrive in the middle of ordinary conversation. Nobody prepares for that moment. Nobody rehearses it. Jeremy Clarkson had known for some time. That detail matters, because imagine carrying something like that while continuing normal life. Imagine waking up every day, going to work, smiling, making jokes, filming television, talking to people, while somewhere in the back of your mind a thought sits quietly waiting. People around you continue laughing. The world continues moving. But something inside you has already changed. There is loneliness inside that kind of knowledge, because even surrounded by people, secrets create distance. And then comes waiting. Waiting may be one of the hardest things human beings do. Movies show dramatic moments, hospital scenes, doctors delivering news, people crying, but they rarely show waiting. Waiting for calls, waiting for appointments, waiting for results, waiting for answers. Days becoming weeks, weeks becoming months. Time suddenly moving too fast and too slowly at exactly the same moment. Jeremy Clarkson had spent his entire life moving, always talking, always doing something. And now, life was asking him to do something different. Sit still, wait, trust. For a man built around momentum, that may have been harder than anyone realized, because eventually every person reaches a moment where force of personality stops helping. Money cannot fix it. Fame cannot fix it. Confidence cannot fix it. You simply become another human being sitting in a room, hoping for good news. No audience, no cameras, no performance, just hope. And hope can feel frightening. Because hope exists only when fear exists too. You cannot separate them. That is why moments like this affect people so deeply. Because beneath celebrity and television and fame, everyone recognizes the same thing: ourselves. Everyone knows what uncertainty feels like. Everyone knows what fear feels like. Everyone knows what it feels like to suddenly understand life may be more fragile than we wanted to believe. Perhaps that is why millions of people reacted so strongly. Because they were not simply watching Jeremy Clarkson. They were watching fathers, brothers, friends, themselves. The fields at the farm continued changing. Morning became evening. Summer slowly moved forward. Work continued. Animals still needed feeding. Crops still needed harvesting. Because nature has a strange indifference toward human problems. The earth keeps turning, always, no matter what happens. And maybe there is something strangely comforting about that. Because even during difficult moments, life continues asking us to keep going. One step, then another, then another. Jeremy Clarkson kept going. The cameras kept rolling, and perhaps that decision said more than words ever could. Because people often hide vulnerability. People hide pain. People hide fear. But allowing others to see difficult moments takes something different. Not strength exactly. Something quieter. Something harder. Honesty. Because honesty means allowing people to see you without armor. And armor becomes heavy after wearing it for years. By the time audiences understood everything, something had already changed. Not in Jeremy, in themselves. Because suddenly the loud television presenter looked different. The man who once looked untouchable looked touchable, human. And perhaps that is why people cared so much. Not because heroes are powerful. Because eventually, heroes become people. And people become fragile. At 66 years old, Jeremy Clarkson reminded millions of viewers of something uncomfortable and beautiful at the same time. Life does not stop asking questions. Not at 20, not at 40, not at 66. The questions simply change. And somewhere tonight, someone will sit quietly thinking about this story. Someone will think about their father, or their health, or a phone call they have been putting off, or an appointment they keep saying they will make next week. Maybe that person will finally make it. Maybe they won't. But stories matter because sometimes they reach people at exactly the moment they need them. And perhaps that is the strange thing about all of this. Jeremy Clarkson spent years entertaining people, making them laugh, making them argue, making them shout at televisions. But maybe one of the most important things he ever did happened without trying. Maybe it happened the moment he allowed people to see him as simply another human being trying to find out if everything was going to be okay. Because beneath all the noise, beneath the fame, beneath the cars and fields and cameras and headlines, there was only a man, sitting quietly, waiting, hoping, exactly like the rest of us.